November 20th, regularly scheduled meeting of the Town of Eastham Planning Board at 5 p.m. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local channel 8, not 18 anymore, it's 8, and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. We have a relatively light agenda tonight. Is there a motion to accept a continuation on case number PB 2022-19 as requested by the applicant to our regularly scheduled October meeting? Do we have the date for October's meeting?
Around the 20th, stand by. The 18th.
Okay, so to October 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Jim,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Craig.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, we're gonna now go to this is a case number PB 2023-17 for 145 Quamashad Road. This is continued from August and continued from July for the property located on map 4, parcel 138. Kevin and Patricia Gibley, owners. John O'Reilly, applicant, seeks site plan approval residential pursuant to Eastham zoning bylaw section 7.4. Residential lot intensity in section 10.3 site plan approval residential to demolish an existing 3-bedroom dwelling and construct a new 4-bedroom dwelling on a lot containing 20,000 square feet or more where the site coverage exceeds 3,000 square feet. Good evening.
Evening.
We have a new proposal. It's in your packets. So why don't I let you describe that?
Okay,
Okay,
sounds great. For the record, I'm John O'Reilly. With me is Peter McDonald. Also in the back room is Kevin Gibney and Mark Finine from Cape Associates. So we heard, the Gibneys heard the board last time, and what we've opted to do is eliminate the connector between the house and garage, originally proposed about 90 feet back from across from road. And we've separated the two. So we have pushed the garage back to 151 feet from the sideline of the road. And the house has kept its position as originally presented on the as it was presented last time. We have enhanced the landscape plan to address some of the comments that staff had, as well as some of the board members had, as far as spreading out the shrubs throughout that whole front area. We've updated the coverage requirements. We are now at 285 square feet in total site coverage, which I believe represents a reduction of about 235. I think that's
all I got.
235. The house is still a gambrel. And I'm at this point, I'll turn it over to Peter. We did do a narrative. The chair was asking for some information as to why the project stands on its own merit, and the team pulled together this memo that I've sent in. So with that, I'll let Peter review it.
So you submitted this already?
Yes,
So they have their narrative.
they
Okay,
have the narrative.
okay. So yes, you were asking for something to hang your hat on to improve this project last time. So I wrote up a narrative that I think addresses our point of view. We want to point out that the purpose of the site plan approval is for the legitimate quote unquote interests of the adjacent property owners. And I wanted to point out there's 23 adjoining properties. One person of those 23 has made some complaints. And I know that person has been on Facebook trying to rally support against this project. He got one person. Well, no, he didn't get anybody in those 23 in the Massasoit Hills group that says 157 members. He got one lady to write a letter last time. And I wanted to point out, it's in the narrative, but we moved the house, we moved the garage back, we moved 235 square feet. We've redesigned the driveway layout. We've added a lot of plantings and screening. We moved the septic system to, at your request, to give a little more screen from the sideline. And we have proposed to put gravel down and create a roadway that's not going to create a lot of dust when all the trucks are there. And that'll be maintained during the project. Now that we separated the buildings, we hope that it's not seeming like such a big project. Individually, these buildings are not incompatible with the neighborhood. And that's why we did that. And that's why we moved the garage 60 feet back from where it is now. So I think that's going to make a big difference. The other thing we didn't mention last time is the grade where the house sits is about 4 feet lower than the grade of the road. So the parent height, when you're on the road, is going to be about 4 feet less. So with the screening and moving the garage back, I think this is going to be one of the most invisible houses in the street. And lastly, there was a lot of discussion last time about gambrel houses and that they weren't common in Eastham. And I did a couple of drives. I think I might have spent 20 minutes twice and took pictures. And I got them on gambrel houses across town. They're pretty much, you don't notice them as much, but there's quite a few. Going down the back, there's a surprising number of gambrels in those little areas. And that's it.
Okay. So I'm a little confused. Is this memo from John or is it from you? You said you wrote it
Well,
or?
It was a collective.
I started it and then there was edits.
Okay, so the two of you were,
Yeah.
Yes.
because if board members have a question, are they going to address it to John or to you or both? I don't know where that
I
goes,
think you
but
can address it to us.
Okay.
Because
fine.
Mark Canine also had some input on this.
Okay.
As well.
All right, I'm going to start with Jim.
Okay, yeah, I want to walk through the memo. The point of, the first 3 paragraphs are about the neighbor in the neighborhood. My point of view on all of this has been the bylaws. And the neighbors are obviously incredibly important, but we have bylaws. And the bylaw says that the development needs to be in sync with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. And it's kind of not crisply defined what prevailing character of the neighborhood means, but that's what it says. And that's the point of view that's primary here. It's because that's our task is to implement the bylaws. Okay.
If I may, the very first paragraph in my narrative is a quote from the bylaw. It doesn't say anything about character. In the first line, it talks about legitimate interests
Right.
of the adjoining properties owners. That's why I went and talked about. It doesn't seem like any of the adjoining property owners cares about this project, except one.
Right. Well, there's
But
many
there's no-
words in the site plan review criteria, right? There's like 3 paragraphs of description.
Yep.
And one of the paragraphs says, I think it's the words harmonious with the, I'm translating to be in sync with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. So you've picked out one sentence.
I picked
There's a
up,
bunch of other
I picked
sentences.
up the opening sentence
Yeah.
that tells you the purpose of the whole bylaw.
Right. But then you get into specifics, and my point of view was the bylaw. And then the one neighbor who I'm really thankful that they actually called in, because we do want neighbors to participate. I don't want to discourage them. But, point C here, to satisfy this one neighbor, we made them make all these changes. To me, it's to try to satisfy the bylaw. The neighbor is the most important neighbor. He's the direct abutter across the street that will look at this development. And ultimately, he may look at the development that's going to perhaps happen on the empty lot. So he's the most important neighbor, and I'm really glad that he's participated. And I think his language, and the first time he spoke was, he called earlier versions of this, the first version we saw, he called it a statement house, and I totally agree with that. So I want to kind of speak for the neighbor here a little bit. So that's the first 3 paragraphs. That's the 4th paragraph, D. given the larger size of this lot compared to other neighbors, well, it's smaller than this lot is smaller than the average of the neighborhood. A little bit, but it's certainly not larger. This lot is 33,000 square feet and the average is 34,000. Just so I just want to correct, I'm trying to correct the memo because there's a lot of stuff in here. And then at that point, and then to the next point about the site coverages, quote, proven to be inaccurate. I mean, this is a critical analysis and a critical statement because starting this year, we have tried to use the assessor's database to evaluate all the properties. So you're calling into question basically what the new format of what we're trying to do, the new analysis of using the assessor's database. And I've looked at this, and because of that such strong statement, I started pulling some property cards to see kind of where some of these numbers came from. And in particularly, I'm focused on the two largest ones. Well, the first part of the chart you have here is what the planning department had presented, which represents net living area, not site coverage, but net living area. It does not include accessory space. So it doesn't include the garage, it doesn't include the shed, it doesn't include porches. It's just interior living space. It's different than site coverage. I'm thinking there's an interpretation issue here. And I'm thinking that the assessor's database is actually correct. So I need, this is really important because all of us work together on many projects and this is how we're trying to implement it. So let me just finish. Then I'm sure you, Mark, you're going to want to say a few things. So I pulled the property cards and, you obviously you're a builder, you know a lot more about this, but I took a little bit of offense or concern about proven inaccurate, because if that's true, we need to change our plan, our game plan on how we do this stuff. So that's why I'm digging into this. So I dug into the two biggest ones that you're citing down the bottom, 75 Aquamashad and 35 Banks. Now when I look at the property card, I come up to within 80 feet of 35 Banks. But the number up above is interior living space, because that is what we quoted. And unless you're excluding the garage and stuff down below, we have apples and oranges. To come up to your number down the bottom, I had to include the garage, the shed, and the porch. And then I got close to your number. So I think we have different, my point is we have different methodologies, but I think what we're doing is correct.
I think you may be right on that. Maybe but the thing is, this project should be based on the old bylaw when we did count sheds, when we did count garages.
I'm following the old bylaw. I realize that.
Yeah, so we should be using those numbers.
Yeah,
not-
what I'm saying is for 35 Bangs, I essentially came up with the same number as you did, but it's total site coverage,
Yeah.
not interior living space, which is what we were quoting, because we don't have a single database that
Right.
has the entire thing. I'm trying to get back to, do we have credible numbers as a town to do all these analysis? And I think we do. And this says we've proven inaccurate. Well, I just think we're talking apples and oranges. So then I couldn't come close to 75 Aquamashad. Instead of, you got 4,800 plus square feet here. I came up to 3,600. I thought there might be a mistake in your number, and I'm throwing this out because there's, according to the property card, there's 990 feet of unfinished second floor, which would not be included in site coverage. So I'm thinking 75 Aquamashad is 3,600 square feet or a site coverage of 9.1. And so that's, so first and foremost, I'm hoping we agree that the numbers that we have are best we can do because we're using the assessor's database. And so we have credibility in our numbers. And then I'd really like to figure out what's going on in 75 Aquamashad, because I'm one last thing, as we look at harmony or in sync with the prevailing character of the neighborhood, I'm saying that means, in my mind, average site coverage of the neighborhood, which is a lot of small homes here. It gets you a lot of small numbers, but you guys have done a lot of stuff. I recognize you just detached the garage, you got great setbacks, you got all this woods, and you did all, et cetera, but that gets you way off the average. You've done a lot of work to give you above the average. And the question is, how high is high, which I have an opinion on, but So that's, I guess my question is, do you agree with what I said about the assessor's database? Because we're going to be using this the next time you're coming in here. And what about, I'd like to understand the 1,200 square feet I'm missing on 75 Oquamish.
Well, I did, the one I did,
You want to come up?
from Cape Associates, I don't have those exact, that chart with me again. Tonight, but what I had done with that, with a very large number, it included all of the areas, whether they were an unfinished area above the garage, that was what they said it was when they did it. It has skylights in it. I don't know many people that put skylights in an unfinished upstairs above a garage. You're counting our garage in the square footage, and you don't count their garage in the square footage. You gotta do one or the other. The thing is, it's not real clear what you're calculating on it. What I tried to do is do more of what you've been complaining about, is that the fact that the structure is too large and too big and feels too big. If this space is finished over a garage or not, it's still an impact with what you're saying from the street. Visually, you're gonna look at it. So what I did in addition to all of that, since
then, is I took the square footage of the visual impact of the front of the house, from front elevations. I took the elevations on whatever plans, building plans I could get. And our own, now that it's been split up and the little porch has been split, all the garage has been split off, and did the total of those. They're all very, very close. If you take just the square footage of what you look at from the street, never mind screening, because screening is another whole subject. Some of them have good screening and not. These numbers here that I'm going to give you are the actual square footages of the face of the front view from the street. One additional one on here, that's a second line item there, which is 75 Quamashad, which you can see both from Quamashad and Wamisko.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know you're saying we have the bylaw, which says it's site coverage. That's how you can't like,
Right.
I understand what you're saying visually in scale of house.
But even back with the site coverage, one that I can recall off the top of my head was 80 Quamashad, which was real simple. I had no plans. I took it right from the assessor's card, and it was totally dead wrong.
I doubt it. Because I believe, I'm looking at your 80 of Quamashad on this, on John's memo. And you're saying 1,200, you're saying 2,100 square feet. And the planning department has 1,300 square feet of net living area. So difference of 800 square feet. A garage is, two-car garage is 700 feet, 650 feet. A shed, it gets you there. So the difference between your numbers, you're including all the accessory space.
So you're getting, so
We're not including it. That's the difference. All of these look reasonable differences to me. Because if you take a two-car garage, you got 700 square feet, you got a shed at 200, you got a porch, you're there. It's all, they're all different by about 1,800 feet. So those are all explainable. The one that wasn't explainable was 75 Aquamashot, because the difference is 2,300 feet. I just can't imagine that being accessory space. And I think it's the counting of the unfinished space on the second floor, which is identified on the property.
it is on that number, that the one that I had
Oh, that
the
is,
week
okay.
before. I agree with it.
Okay,
The one I had before had two numbers for that one.
Yeah.
One counting that and one without counting that. And they
Okay.
were still quite a bit over and much closer to ours.
It's quite a bit over because they have a two-car garage and I got it all listed out here. They got all kinds of stuff. Again, I dug into this thing because I was just really concerned about it. They got a 224 square foot porch, got a 200 square foot shed. They got other things going on that you expect. And so I'm at 75 Aquamashad is at 3,628 square feet. are 9.1% site coverage, which puts them in line with all the other properties on your schedule there. They're all 8 or 9%, except for 35 Bangs, which is at 11.7%. So that's the top of the neighborhood, full site coverage, 11.7% of max. The neighborhood is down half of that, even less than that, because there's so many small little cottages there. But that house at the peak of all the existing neighbors at 11.7% site coverage. This proposal here is at 12.8. Now, I'm, again, back to bylaws, prevailing character of the neighborhood. Loosely defined, because we try to tighten it up in the next version coming out. But I'm not comfortable going above the site coverage that's there today. Because each time we've dealt with this in other streets, I won't say which one of the famous ones along the shoreline there, but every time a property came in, we're getting clipped. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more. Now here we're losing 500 feet. Next time we come in, we do another bit, and we keep on getting clipped. And all of a sudden we're back to, bigger houses. And so I of my mind, that's where I'm at.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Kevin Gibney. Hope everyone's doing well. Jim, couple comments in response, only because you're the only one who's spoken so far. Our language in the memorandum is that we have proven the initial numbers inaccurate. I really think you validated that point because you did your own homework and you pointed out that there's a difference in 75 Aquamashad, which was originally listed as 2576. You're saying it's substantially higher than that now, and we agree that it's substantially higher than that now. Also, I think if you're going to look at the other homes in the neighborhood and strip away the other accessories, I think you use the word accessories, from those properties, garages, then you can strip away our garage and judge our property based on that as well. So
That's what we're
if
doing.
we're
That's what
no,
we do.
no, we haven't. If we're gonna
Demo.
if we're going to look at the properties in the neighborhood and just the homes and not the garages, then we can do that too. And in that case, our property would be 3,079 square feet. If we're going to look at the other properties in the neighborhood and their site coverage with their garages, then we can also include our garage. So it is an apples to apples comparison, I think, when you look at these numbers. Listen, I agree that the data is not perfect. I'm not familiar with the systems that the town uses, and we certainly want to respect that ours isn't the only property that's going to be used. Go through this process with the data that you're going to have. It's probably somewhat imperfect. We get it. Our point in compiling this data, and when I say we compiled this data, we really did so with leaning on the efforts of Mark Kinane, because he has technology, he has a knowledge of the neighborhoods, he understands how to request building plans that are on file with the town, was very simply to say, I don't know that our numbers are perfect, but there is a discrepancy. That was the point of the exercise. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Dan.
Okay, Peter.
Oh, I like the changes that made. Looks good.
Okay, Dave.
I like the changes as well.
Okay. Rob,
I like the changes.
Brian,
Yeah, I'm on board with it.
okay, and Craig.
I like the changes.
Okay, I'm going to point out, we've gone a long way on this application. A long way, and we've gained a lot of good, in my opinion. The outrageous first driveway was my pet peeve. It's gone. 60-foot wide driveway is nuts. The visual impact is gone, in my opinion. So I have no issues with this present application. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
I'm sorry.
There's one.
Speaker.
All right, is there anybody online? I don't know how we can tell who is. If there's anybody online that wants to speak.
Yes, I'm Steve Gunsberger. I'm the evil neighbor who
try to rally support through Facebook. I will, in my defense, say I did post on Facebook to let the association, the members of the association know that this was proposed, a large house was proposed. And in my opinion, the items that the one time I posted on Facebook was not inflammatory. It just told that you are invited to participate in the hearings and to express your concerns. Okay, would like to address a couple of things in the memorandum. I know you're busy. I'm going to do it as quickly as I can. Memorandum, the items A and B in the narrative presented by the applicant and their professional advisors argue that since only a few interested parties have come forward to oppose the projects, that the remainder of the community should be considered to be in favor of this proposal. I don't think that's a valid conclusion. One could equally argue that since nobody came forward to support the proposal, that all the people all remain opposed to it. It's not easy to come before you and to come before your neighbors and to criticize or express your concerns about their proposal. The result is indicated many times in the memorandum that you get criticized and results in a strained and uncomfortable relationship with your neighbors. No one wants to have bad relationships with their neighbors. Rather than risking these bad feelings, many interested parties rely on you, the board members, to act to protect their interests. In item C of the memorandum, the applicant and their advisors say that to satisfy this one neighbor, the applicants have agreed to make the following changes, and then go on list of changes. This, to me, is an astounding misunderstanding of the purpose of this process in these meetings. The residential site approval bylaw that I think goes back to 2001 was intended to respond to the concerns of the community about the constructions of homes and accessory buildings that are out of scale with the surrounding neighborhood. It was enacted, I believe, to specifically address the type of plan proposed for 145 Aquamashad Road. We would take down a 1,600 square foot home and put up a home that's several times bigger than any other home in the surrounding homes in the neighborhood. Of the approval for residents, the site plan approval is for the rational protection of the legitimate interest of adjoining property owners and to encourage construction that is reasonably sensitive to the scale, size, and massings of the building. And the others and the property owners and the neighbors are counting on you people to protect their interest in that area. It is clearly, the purpose of these meetings is clearly not to satisfy me. Imply that the sole purpose of these meetings is to placate me ignores the substance of the East Hampton zoning laws, indicates a lack of respect for the efforts, time, assistance offered by you, the members of the planning board, and the town personnel towards this process. It shows in the offensive dismissal of the concerns expressed by members of the board over the last few months and disregards the effort to enforce the zoning process and rules. I mean, to say that this process is to placate a cranky neighbor is really quite offensive to me, and it should be offensive to you as well. In regard to the specific proposals, the changes, I appreciate the changes made in the application. Yes, the driveways have changed. The house has been set back. It is visually less intrusive than the original plans. However, I believe that the repeated comments of you, the board members, as to the square footage and the size of the building has really been quite ignored. The dwelling is at the exact same size. The garage is only reduced 200 some square feet. The building remains at 2 and 3 times the size of the average home on the street. The board is charged with the enforcing of zoning regulations and representing the interests of the neighborhood. I'm confident that you will take all the views into consideration. You will consider your responsibilities, weigh all matters, and reach an appropriate decision regarding this proposal. And I do want to thank you for your time and effort, both you and the town employees. It's been quite a learning experience, and I do appreciate the effort made on behalf of the neighborhood as well as the homeowners. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak from online? Okay. Anybody in the audience one more time? All set? Okay.
I would. Hello,
Yes,
can you hear me? Hi, I'm Kristen Harrigan. I live on Quaison Drive. And I submitted a letter kind of last minute today. I don't know if the board received it.
no, we did not.
Okay, I submitted it by email. Essentially, it just said that we look to the board to enforce the zoning regulations. And I think it's up to the homeowners to abide by those zoning recommendations. Well, regulations, not recommendations. And I'm a lifelong resident, summer resident on Quaison Drive, and I'm an architect. And I do believe that this house is out of character with the neighborhood. And quite frankly, there are no gambrel houses in our neighborhood. It looks like a trophy home that perhaps maybe should be on Nantucket rather than, you know, on a dirt road with ranches and small capes. I would hope that the board would consider the other houses and the neighbors. I did see Steve's Facebook post concerning this issue, and it's the only reason that I and my family heard about this, because we are not abutters and did not receive any notification. And I know that there's a lot of talk about placating one neighbor, criticizing a social media post. And I know that Steve had mentioned that he found it somewhat offensive, and quite frankly, I do as well. This letter from the engineer, I'd like to hear from the architect and see why this massing of the house is not brought down. And further, I'm concerned about the landscape. Is a landscape architect involved with submitting a plan with a comprehensive plant list of native plants and keeping in character with the neighborhood?
Yes, the applicant did submit a planting plan.
And by a landscape architect or by a contractor?
By the engineer.
An engineer?
He's a professional engineer and land surveyor.
Well, that's not a landscape architect. I'm concerned about the landscaping plan for after the construction is done, about replacing native plants and trees and what kind of shielding. I'm not privy to the entire pack of drawings that were submitted, but I would hope that they would do their due diligence to try to make the house as in character on the landscape as well. And I don't see how an engineer would, no offense to the engineer, but he's not a landscape architect. Just as I'm not going to go out and build a bridge. Maybe he can, but I can't. I can draw one, but it's not going to be a good one. So
I would like to point out that the majority of the front yard is going to be left in its natural woodland state. It is not going to be torn down, and it will provide
it's
a
not.
buffer, visual buffer to the building because it's already there.
Okay,
And it's committed to on the plans.
okay. And they're committed to keeping that buffer?
That is correct.
Okay, and how, are they gonna be taping off that area or somehow so it doesn't get damaged with all the trucks coming
They have
in?
noted on the plan that there's going to be a buffer area, I'm guessing approximately 60 feet back from the roadway and almost the entire width of the lot. The only exception would be
Okay,
the existing driveway, which is going to be planted, and the proposed driveway, which obviously can't have landscaping in it.
right, but it could have it as you said, a buffer. So I would think that would be a positive. And my other question was about the material they're going to put down, the crushed stone or what they're going to have during the construction to keep the dust down, which is a big problem in our neighborhood, which anybody who goes on the dirt roads knows. I would hope that they would use a clean stone and not something that mixes with concrete or other building materials, and that when the construction is finished, the contractor is responsible for taking all that away and making regrading the road as it was, so that we don't have a bunch of mess in the neighborhood and for all the neighbors who use that section of Oquamashad.
Okay,
And I think that's about it.
okay. Is there anybody
And
else? I'm sorry.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else online? Okay. At this point, I am going to attempt to read findings of facts. Unless there are any other board comments before doing such.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Peter did, we developed some findings of facts. Did you want us to present that or?
No.
Okay.
That's our job, and we're gonna do it. Okay, for case number PB 2023-17, we have the following proposed findings of facts. Number one, property is located at 145 Quamashad Road and is located in the residential zoning district. Number two, the applicant has applied for site plan approval residential pursuant to Eastham zoning bylaw, section 7.4.2 residential lot intensity and section 10.3 site plan approval residential. Number three, the proposed project does not negatively impact existing native vegetation and soil or grade changes. No major grade changes are proposed to the lot. The proposed work and accompanying landscape plan preserve much of the existing native vegetation, which consists of pitch, pine, and oak. The applicant added native red oaks to the landscape plan and repositioned the rhododendrons throughout the wooded portion of the front lot. A condition of approval will require that the existing native vegetation at the front lot line be maintained as shown on the landscape plan. Number four, the proposed project does relate harmoniously to the terrain, to the use and scale and proportions of existing and proposed buildings in the neighborhood. The proposed total site coverage will be 4,285 square feet on a 33,541 square foot lot, or 12.78%. This represents an increase of 3,013 square feet as compared to the existing dwelling. The proposed net living area of the primary structure is 3,079 square feet. The average net living area of primary structures in the neighborhood is 1,565 square feet with an average lot size of 34,181 square feet. The board finds that the reconfiguration of the driveway coupled with the repositioning of the garage will mitigate the visual impacts of the scale and proportions of the proposed dwelling. The site changes and addition of native plantings throughout the front third of the property adds screening and preserves the character of the existing terrain. Number five.
Again, some of the numbers here, I think, are off. In that sentence, the proposed net living area of the structure, not the primary structure, but the structure is 3613.
You mean the main house?
Yeah, just get rid of the word primary because
All right.
when you compare it against the neighborhood, that includes all living space, irrespective of attached or detached. So it's 3613 instead of the 3079.
3613 and removal of the primary structure.
3079, the square footage of the first floor, square foot of the second floor, not counting the farmer's porch. That's the main house.
Yeah, but I'm saying, when you compare it to the number of the neighborhood, that includes living space in detached buildings. So you got apples and oranges.
Okay, so you're saying garage and the house together.
The living space above the garage.
Okay.
So we're just talking living space
Okay,
here.
sorry.
It's a minor point, but I just want to get the numbers
Okay.
right.
You're right.
So eliminate the word primary,
Okay,
insert 3613, and then the second sentence, the average net living area of structures, get rid of primary again. And then that's correct, the rest of it.
okay. Bill, we've got that? Great. Okay. Number 5. The prevailing characteristics of the neighborhood are preserved by the plan as presented. The proposed structure includes design elements recommended in the planning board's residential design guidelines, including the use of interconnected building elements to help the structure appear smaller than a single mass of the same volume, use of overhangs to create shadows to break up the mass of the building, and use of dormers to break up the roof line of the building, period.
And do we have interconnected buildings any longer?
No. We could reword this.
No, that's just straight out of the language though.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So that's in our regulation, the way it's
Well, it's
written.
not specifically in the regulations.
Right.
That's standard language that we use in there. Yeah.
Period, okay.
Sorry.
The combination of.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Mr.
Yes,
Chair, sorry, it's Paul. You can remove the interconnected language because it's no longer relevant to the project. That is language that's in the bylaw, but if it's not applicable any longer based on the revisions, you should remove it just so it reflects the updated version.
all right, I'm gonna take out that line. So I'm gonna start number 5 all over. Number 5, the prevailing characteristics of the neighborhood are preserved by the plan as presented. The proposed structure includes design elements recommended in the planning board's residential design guidelines, including the use of overhangs to create shadows to break up the mass of the building, and use of dormers to break up the roof line of the building. The combination of recommended design elements and the repositioning of the garage behind the primary dwelling reduces the visual impact of the proposed dwelling and yields a home more consistent with the existing neighborhood. Number 6, the proposed project does avoid impact on steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops, dunes, and scenic views and wetlands. The site is not located within any resource area and does not impact any floodplains, dunes, wetlands, or scenic views. There are no steep slopes or hilltops on the site. Number 7, the proposed project does not have existing unique or significant environmental resources. The site is not located within any resource areas. Conservation Commission approval is not required. Number 8, the proposed site plan does maximize the convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movements within the site and in relationships to adjacent ways. The proposed driveway will provide ample space for vehicle travel parking. The applicant has reduced the footprint of the driveway and eliminated one of the 2 entry points to Quamashad Road. Number 9, the Eastham Planning Board identified the size of proposed dwelling as well as its scale massing relative to Quamashad Road and abutting property owners as area of concern. The applicant addressed these concerns through the following actions. Bullet 1, altered the configuration of the proposed dwelling on the lot such that the garage is detached from the primary structure, reducing the visual impact of the home. Bullet number 2, move the garage to the rear of the proposed dwelling such that the front garage is now 63.5 feet from the front of the dwelling, 151 feet from the roadway, and 47 feet from the rear setback. It's not setback, it's rear property line. So I'll make that note. So it's 45.7 feet from the rear property line. Bullet number 3, increased the proposed front yard setback to 90 feet for the dwelling. The required setback is 30 feet. Bullet number 4, reposition the garage and alter the driveway configuration to lessen the visual impact from Quamashad Road. Number 6, scattered rhododendrons throughout the native woodlands on the front of the lot and remove them from the edge of Quamashad Road. Number 7, proposed native red oaks, which will match the existing vegetation and woodlands. Number 8, reduce the size of the garage from 1,330 square feet to 1,206 square feet. And number 9, provided updated site coverage comparisons for abutting properties. Phil, how many letters have we received on this? I know it's quite a bit. It goes back 3 months.
In total, I think the number would be 3.
3? And none in favor, 3 opposed, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we, number 10, no letters received in favor of the proposal and 3 were received in opposition to
Dan,
the proposal.
I'm sorry, just to chime in here real
Yeah.
quick. One of the initial letters by Ann Stout against the project, that was a letter written in anticipation of our very first board
Right.
meeting. Ms. Stout was actually here at last meeting and spoke in favor of our project.
Okay,
So she didn't write a letter in favor of the project, but she attended in person last
that's
time.
okay. We have to reflect the record.
That's
So
fine.
that's fine. And it's not going to hurt you, so it's fine. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the findings of findings of fact for case number PB 2023-17 as read? I will move it. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Craig first, so we'll have Craig. Any discussion? All in favor? Jim?
No, the property's too big by 500 square feet to bring it back in line with the high end of the existing
Fine.
neighborhood.
Just need a yes or no.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Peter?
Yes,
Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Craig?
aye,
Chair votes aye. Okay, we're not done yet. Is there a motion to approve site plan approval for case number PB 2023-17, subject to the following proposed conditions? Number 1, no building permit will be issued until the application complies with all the pertinent sections of the Town of Eastham zoning bylaw. Number 2, all exterior light fixtures shall be shielded with a fully enclosed fixture to reduce light spill and nuisances to adjacent properties. Number 3, the applicant shall verify the final bedroom count and septic design for adequacy with the approved plan with Eastham Health Department, and if necessary, shall file Board of Health approval prior to issuance of a building permit. Number 4, the applicant is responsible for providing building plans to the Eastham Building and Fire Departments. Plans shall contain information on construction methods and materials sufficient to conduct a full code compliance review. Number 5, plans reviews conducted by town staff as part of the site plan approval have been conducted for conformance with applicable sections of the zoning bylaw and for adequacy of the site for public safety, access, and environmental impacts. Additional plan review for health and safety code compliance will be required and may result in changes to the approved plans. Any changes to the proposed site plan dated August 4th, 2023 And the building plans dated August 22nd, 2023. Are these the latest dates, by the way? I'm just, yeah, okay. Except those that are deemed de minimis must be reviewed by the planning board. If the board finds a change to be substantial, renotice is necessary for a new hearing. Number 6, any changes to the final grade must be reviewed by the planning board. Number 7, the planning board reserves the right to monitor the ongoing construction for compliance with the approved plans. Number 8, no changes to the property's landscaping as it pertains to privacy and screening, including existing vegetation located in the front or eastern portion of the lot and labeled native wetlands on the approved site plan dated August 4th, 2023, and including vegetation within 6 feet of the lot lines pursuant to zoning bylaw section 7.2.6 perimeter vegetation can be made without approval of the town of East End Planning Board. And number 9, the conditions set forth in the site plan approval remain with the property in perpetuity and cannot be changed without approval of the town of East End Planning Board. Is there a motion to approve site plan approval for case number PB 2023-17 with conditions as read?
Do we have discussion first?
Yes, well, we know we have to just, first we have to adopt the motion. Then
Okay,
we'll-
okay.
I so-
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
I'd like to suggest a condition that we reduce the square footage by 500 square feet to bring it in line with the largest existing property in the neighborhood.
Okay, we have a modification to the motion. We will vote on the modification first, and then we will, if it does not pass, we're going to redo the motion without the modification. All those in favor of the motion, including the restriction to reduce the size of the building as proposed by Jim Kevlahan, say,
500 feet, yeah.
by 500 feet.
Aye.
Okay, Peter,
Nay,
Dave,
No.
Rob,
Nay.
Brian,
Aye.
Craig,
Nay.
chair votes no. Is there a motion to approve the site plan approval of case number PB 2023-17, subject to the conditions as read without the modification? I will move it. Is there a second?
second,
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, Jim,
No.
Peter,
yes,
Dave,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
chair votes yes. You're done.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have some minutes to approve in the package. Some of them go back to January. I assume you may have had a chance to review these. If you have, anybody have any changes to, let's start with January 18th, 2023. Any corrections, changes, alterations? If not, is there a motion to approve as written the minutes of January 18th, 2023? As written? Anybody?
So moved.
All right, Rob moves. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we'll give it to Peter this time. All in favor, Jim,
Aye.
Peter,
aye,
Dave,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Okay, we have now July 19th, 2023.
Yeah.
That the next one? Oh, no, yeah, well, wait, June 20th. Let's do June 20th, keep them in order. It's a short one. Any questions, changes, proposed alterations or anything?
But that's for the zoning task force.
Oh,
It's for us too.
it was a joint meeting.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes as written for June 20th, 2023, 4 p.m. meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Jim,
Aye.
Peter,
aye,
Dave,
Yeah.
Brian, Rob,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written for July 19th, 2023. This is again a special meeting at 4 p.m. Anybody?
I move.
Okay, Peter
Second.
moves. Dave seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Jim?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Brian? Craig? Aye. Chair votes aye. Last one, August 17th, 2023. This is our regularly scheduled meeting. And is there a motion to approve the minutes as written? Or are there any changes or alterations?
I make a motion.
Second.
Peter second. Any discussion? All in favor? Jim?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The next thing we have, Jim has done a terrific memorandum, and Mary Nee has done a memorandum regarding some of the zoning issues that we've talked about. And what we thought we would do you have those to hand out?
These are the new zoning issues?
Yeah, it's just this whole
Yeah.
prevailing character. of the name.
Yeah, we've been wrestling with prevailing characteristics of the neighborhood. I don't think we're in a agreement necessarily yet to exactly what that is. And I appreciate the efforts by Jim and Mary to come up with some memos. And if you don't feel,
I actually, yeah, it's great, thanks.
okay, oh, this is Mary's first? Okay. Yeah, I sent you that, right? And basically, what she realizes, I'm leery on overreaching what's been approved at town meeting. I want to make sure that what we regulate, we are in compliance with what the voters wanted. And to that end, we're going to spend some time with reviewing a memo that Jim wrote, which you're going to get next, and Mary wrote back to him. And I don't know whether you feel, since you're just getting it tonight, the thought was maybe we should put it off to the next agenda so that you have time to review these memos. It's important. We're trying to get from objective to subjective. And I think we've done a good job, not just us, but obviously the zoning task force has done a good job in defining numbers and getting things under an exact situation or calculation. There are still some sections of the codes that aren't. And to that end, we need to do some work. So I thought that there's a lot of data here. Phil, what do you think? Put it off to the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it might be worth giving everybody a chance to review both the memos, give it some thought, and when we have an opportunity to maybe have a, good productive discussion on it. And it
Jim,
could even,
do you wish to summarize your letter and?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, so there's a few things in here that, but the one that this was just kind of a memo I wrote to the task force and copied Dan because we have real live cases that we're trying to deal with, and the task force is more about long-term changes. So there's some stuff about accessory space you'll read about in the back is more cleanup type of stuff, my opinion. But I'm most concerned with the prevailing character of the neighborhood, which I think is going to be our life in every meeting coming up. And there's language in the new bylaw that, in my words, benchmarks the scale of the prevailing character of a neighborhood, the scale size, to the existing average site coverage. And we just saw that in this example, how small that can be. So if you go to the very last page is a table of numbers, and I've been tracking the size of our neighborhoods that we've been seeing in all our cases. Just pull the old cases. You can see the bottom chart. And you can see Oquamish, but the first one is what's the townwide average existing site coverage, right? Net living area 7%. Then you see Oquamish at 4.5. When I saw that number got awfully low relative to what we were seeing. So the language in the bylaws, my interpretation is you start with the existing average site coverage of a neighborhood. So Quamashad, we're starting at 4.5. And we just approved, well, with site coverage of 11, so we just approved something astronomically above it. 12, we approved 13%.
Correct.
So, but if the language, do we really want to start at 4.5%? Is that, now that we see the numbers for the first time, is that starting point of average site coverage the right starting point? It doesn't allow growth, right? Where's the growth? Because some of these neighborhoods are very small. I'm always of mind that we should be allowing some growth in these neighborhoods. But if you're starting with average site coverage and then you have to defend how to grow off that, that's pretty extreme. So that's the gist of it. Okay.
And I agree with you. I've said it before. In the 40s, everybody built a little cape. One closet, one bathroom, small windows, low ceilings. Nobody wants that now.
Cottage type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's evolving. And when it evolves, the tastes of people change and they want more. And this is particularly, in my opinion, particularly sensitive as you get closer to the water, where the price of land is just astronomical. And they don't want 1,400 square feet. They want a bigger house and they want to take advantage of it. Traditionally, zoning took care of this. You know, you met your side yard setbacks, you met your height, you met your requirements in terms of that. And if you met all that, you got a bigger house because you didn't get too close to the property line and you didn't get too high and everything worked. Now we're getting into this massing and sizing and characteristics of the neighborhood. There have been cases in the past where this planning board has determined that a particular application does not meet the characteristics of the neighborhood, yet it got site plan approval. I can think of one in particular in the on the seashore, in the seashore district. Somebody had a beautiful mid-century designed home. Didn't meet the characteristics of the neighborhood. They were putting in a barn. They were putting in a conventional looking barn. So what they were proposing did meet the characteristics of the neighborhood, but the house didn't. And we had to find in our findings that the house did not meet the characteristics of the neighborhood. And in my opinion, it shouldn't. It was a magnificent pre-existing mid-century designed home. So we are wrestling with this. And I think that the more we go from objectives, you know, we get down to criteria, I'm more comfortable in regulations than less comfortable when we can get and sink our teeth into something that creates guidelines. And I think we are a little loose now on this prevailing characteristics in the neighborhood. So I'm certainly willing to work on it, and I hope you all are, because I think we can get there. I do believe we can get there. I think I've got to respect the task force for what they've done. They got us way into this, much further than I thought they were going to be from first blush, but we got more work to do. And I think involving them will help too. I do. And I look forward to buttoning down as much of this stuff as we possibly can. So I appreciate Jim's effort. I appreciate Mary Nee's efforts. And I think that maybe next month we could put it on if we're not. Well, we should have Route 6 coming back next month, and that's going to take some time. So depending on whether that shows up.
So, excuse me, I'm sorry. So this letter to Jim is from Mary Nee?
Correct.
Okay.
In
Thank you.
response to what I wrote.
Right.
So we've got it back and forth, and I'm very appreciative of it. I think it's terrific, and I think we need it. So I commend both of you for doing it. It's not easy, and it has to be done. So anybody have anything else? Do you have anything, Phil?
The only thing is on the agenda, you'll see there is a discussion regarding any reorganization of the board. We
Oh,
didn't
that's
take a
right, we
vote.
have
We
to.
pushed that off. So
No, we can't. It's supposed to be
yeah,
done.
so no, so we had
It's
pushed it
supposed
off.
to be done in June.
Yeah, so we just.
All right, board members, offices. This is the time of year that we elect officers. So I will entertain any nominations that anybody has
I would like to nominate you to continue.
as chair.
Chair.
Okay. I would,
second that.
all right. How about vice chair? I would nominate Dave to be vice chair.
I agree.
Is that good for you?
That's okay.
It works.
I haven't done much.
I second it. Is that good?
Second that.
All right. How about a nice clerk? We need a nice clerk. Would Craig like to continue as clerk?
Maybe.
But we have to know. You can resign later if you wish, but we need to know.
Okay.
All right, so let's assume Craig would continue. Is there any, are there any other nominations from anybody for any, no, no other positions, but for the positions that we have, is there anybody else who would like to nominate themselves or anybody else? If not, is there a motion to approve the slate of officers as just formed? Jim? Oh, sorry, we're gonna need a motion.
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, Jim?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Brian? Craig? You can say aye, and chair votes aye. We have reorganized with the same organization.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, great. This is a great team. I'm very proud of this planning board. I will tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Here we go. Next, motion to, anything else? Phil? I don't want to take your thunder. Are we all set to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Make a
Aye.
motion